Philosophy regarding the role of a preschool director in protecting the health and safety of children.
My philosophy is it is extremely important for administrative staff to always ensure that the people they are hiring are properly trained, skilled, and have no previous issues in any early childhood settings or previous work environments. This means that the staff you're hiring should be extremely skilled in the position they are applying for, whether it's an aide position, a teaching position, or even a manager or administrative position. The vetting process should always still be very strong and selective. In a preschool setting, it's very important to separate yourselves from the pop-ups across the street and ensure that your staff and your clients are properly protected. So with that, I will always make sure that my staff is trained in basic life support practices such as CPR, trained in cleaning and sanitation in the classroom settings, and understands the basic and advanced needs of all children in a preschool environment.
Thank you for that detailed answer. Now let's move on to the next. How would you implement daily arrival health checks, and what documentation system would you use?
I would implement daily arrival health checks by how I just said, ensuring staff is properly trained. This means when students are arriving to campus, preschool staff is acknowledging their looks. This includes if they looked fatigued, if they look tired, if there may be any signs of abuse or neglect, which may include really odd bruising or strange marks that may resemble objects. You might think forks or extension cords if you were to go down the neglect or abuse path in terms of your morning daily health checks. And you want to make sure that your students are not flushed. You want to make sure that they're not exhausted. And you want to make sure you are asking them subtle questions to make sure they are emotionally sound that day, as well as physically sound. This can include how was their night, what they had for dinner, what they did for school after school the previous day, and how they felt about their morning, or just generally other topics that are appropriate in the school setting. And that's how I like to make sure that my students remain safe, healthy, and accounted for. Because if you don't know that little Todd went to Mexico, how are you supposed to double check that he has all immunizations or any homework that he missed?
You can start again at your own pace. Feel free to share each step when you're ready.
The 4 steps of infection control include hand washing, cleaning and disinfecting or sanitizing. This is to remove the initial dirt, pathogen, and excess germs, and then also vaccinations and proper healthcare equipment. Proper healthcare equipment can include gloves if handling blood or bodily fluids, and masks if you know that the illness is spread by air contact or you're a sensitive individual who may be a bit more prone to infection or illness.
Thank you. Let's keep going. How would you respond to a communicable disease outbreak in your center?
In my center, if there were a communicable disease outbreak, I would first ask myself, where did I go wrong? Did I possibly miss any advisories from my community members? Is it flu season? Is COVID on the rise? Is there a new disease on the market that I need to be aware about? I would then figure out where the disease originated from. I'd make sure that student and that family is properly contacted and handled with love and care. And then I'd ensure that the rest of my staff, school members, including family members, and students are all informed of the steps they need to take to protect themselves and any extra steps that will be taken by the school and staff. This may include exclusion for one, multiple students, or a specific student. If it's a specific student, we'll have to reach out to that student's guardian, let them know about why they're being excluded and other steps, and then make sure that the entire school population, including janitor staff, guardians, or just everyone's informed.
What systems would you implement to track immunizations and maintain confidentiality?
To track immunizations, I think it's important for your parents to provide proper, documented, and checkable records. This means that in the event we needed to reach out to the health department where they are claiming they got their vaccinations from or their records from, or their primary care provider who has stated that their child is safe to come to daycare and be around children and be in whatever particular activities their child is signed up for. It's always important to make sure that the documentation parents is submitting for themselves as well as their children is accurate, up to date, and not fraudulent. This helps protect even the slightest things when registering your students. And moving forward, you want to make sure that your students' private information is only accessible by the appropriate individuals. So if there are any family members in the same network, that family staff member should not have access to their family members' private records simply due to conflict of interest. For medical records, anything to do with a student's health, well-being, safety, those records should be handled by higher administrative professionals as well as the school nurse. And anyone who needs to check those records should only be able to check those records in a specific system, whatever CRM or point of service operating system that the center will use. Will be password enter only to protect the students and make sure only the appropriate staff has access to it.
That's a strong approach. Next, how would you ensure sanitation procedures are followed in classrooms, including diapering, food prep, and cleaning schedules?
For diapering, food prep, and cleaning schedules, this goes back to what I said earlier. These things are considered basic to me. I know one of my biggest weaknesses as a early childhood specialist is I can be very hard on myself, meaning I always strive to ensure that my staff understands everything they need to be doing in terms of providing advanced child care. That means being able to care for all types of children in the preschool setting. That includes children who may not be potty trained, children who are 100% independent in the bathroom and do not need any extra assistance. Because I have noticed in my experience, some staff and centers are not very appreciative of young children who do show more independence in the classroom setting, which we can get into that later on in the interview as well. But to make sure that my staff can handle the diapering, the food prep, and the training, it'll all come back to making sure their resumes align with the goals of our facility, as well as making sure that I can partner with community organizations to ensure they can have access to the training they need. So that includes ServSafe or ServSafe certifications for food, or if they already have previous culinary arts training, which may include a Associate's in Art and Culinary or Pastry Arts. And I'd also make sure that staff is regularly reminded of non-toxic and child-safe products, ingredients, diets, and approaches. Sometimes as adults, we forget that we are handling tiny humans, young children, and that we need to adjust our approaches.
What is your approach to emergency preparedness, including drills, documentation, and family communication?
For drills, I believe it's important to understand our state, local, and national standards for fire drills, shooter drills, shelter-in-place drills, and the different drills that can come about as we progress throughout the school year. During these drills, it's important to make sure that they are scheduled, practice unscheduled, and properly talked about amongst staff, family, and local community authorities, which may include fire departments or polices, just to make sure everyone is safe and properly informed and knows what to do when it's time to start practicing. Next, I'd also want to make sure that there is clear documentation. Anytime you make a decision within your environment, you want to make sure you are documenting why. So what came about? Was there a fire drill? Was there a throw up in class? Did a bullying incident happen? Why? And then you want to document what steps we took. Did we clean up? Did we schedule a meeting? Did we need to reach out to a fire department to come put a fire out? And we want to make sure we then communicate with the appropriate staff members, the appropriate parties involved, which may include children's parents, staff's relatives if it's a more serious issue, and always making sure that students, staff, parents, and administrators know their rights and the rights of their peers. During emergencies, it can get very hectic in making sure you follow routines. So ensuring that there is a calm, proactive, and child-forward approach for real situations. When you already have a properly vetted and trained staff, you'll be ready for success. And I also feel like that sums up my philosophy.